A shocking AEW departure has been revealed. Plus, we're going to talk about some big news surrounding WWE and AEW. You're not going to want to miss it right here on The Ango Show. Yes. Welcome back to The Ango Show, ladies and gentlemen. I want to kick things off with Ric Flair. Obviously, this is a very interesting topic for a variety of reasons because we saw Ric Flair enter AEW, and it's been a while since we've seen him. Now we have a huge update. It appears that Ric Flair is not really in AEW at this point. There's no creative plans for him. There's nothing really going on with him. And if you may have noticed in recent weeks of AEW television, they have completely scrapped the imagery of his energy drink that they were actively promoting while he was with the company. Dave Meltzer pointed this out, and he says that as of late, unless something changes, it appears that fans will not be seeing him in the future. There was no explanation given, but unless something changes, it does look like that deal is over with, and it does impact. It's unclear how it impacts his status with the company. Now, I'm going to say this. I talked about it when he joined AEW. I thought it was foolish. I don't change my opinion on that. I think Ric Flair is obviously a legend in the business. He is not one that I'm a fan of, and I've been pretty clear about that. Now, in regards to AEW and what they've been doing as of late, I feel like it's been excellent television, and yes, they are in fact restoring the feeling. There is a bigger focus on the storylines. There is a big focus on the women's division. There is a big focus on their titles. It's not perfect, but it's actually been very, very well improved in the last several weeks, and as always, you guys know my thing is consistency. I hope they keep it up. I'm actually also a big fan of some of the changes that they made to the overall presentation of the show because it does feel like they are reverting back to the old style of AEW, which means no LED barricades and stuff. And look, I'm gonna just be so real with you guys. WWE already does that. And you know, if you're going to be the alternative, you can't be doing the same exact thing that WWE is doing in terms of presentation. You got to make yourself look different. You got to make yourself feel like a different product. And I've always said that when AEW is focused on their stories and they're like really focused as a company, they produce some of the best weekly television. It's starting to feel like that is coming back. It feels like AEW is getting reshifted and refocused again. And I'm absolutely excited about it. You know, this tournament that they've done with, you know, for the Owen Hart tournament, like that's another thing, right? In the past, my criticism was, hey, you're just doing tournaments to do tournaments. And this Owen Hart tournament seems to be freaking awesome. And now you have Bryan Danielson versus Swerve at Wembley Stadium, which anybody who knows the story of Bryan Danielson's last full year as an active competitor and whatever it may be, this is obviously a big deal. It's a great storyline, and it's something that I'm excited about. I do also want to point out with AEW reverting back to the old ways of doing things, you know, this is just like a really good thing for them. I think people are going to start buying into it. Let's not talk about ratings. Let's talk about the physical product itself, because even when they had great ratings and I didn't agree with the creative direction of the company, it doesn't change the fact of how I feel. The number is the number, but I think it's important to make the right decisions. It seems like they are, and Ric Flair not being part of those plans is a good thing in my opinion. I want to turn our attention to Damon Kemp. The news dropped earlier this week that he's gone from WWE, but now there is actually some more details here that are absolutely important to discuss because Fightful had reported that Damon Kemp's departure, I almost said temperature, but his departure was actually not part of a round of WWE cuts. Instead, what WWE did was allow his contract to expire, and then they decided not to renew his contract. Now, this is interesting because Tavion Heights has now joined the Orlando Combat Club. Obviously, that's my running joke, but he's part of the group. Damon Kemp's not in the company. Now there's talk that maybe some talents are a little bit uneasy. There's a little bit of nervousness backstage because WWE is not doing releases, but instead they're just not renewing contracts. We know this happened to Dijak. We saw this happen to Drew Gulak. Now we see it with Kemp. And look, this is what I'm going to say. I think releases are terrible. I've always been adamant about that. But I do think to a certain extent, not renewing somebody's contract is completely fair. The talent signs a contract, they enter the company, and at some point the contract ends. And if the company doesn't want to keep you there for whatever reason it may be, it doesn't really matter. They don't have to re-sign you. That's real life. That's how it is anywhere else. You get a job and your company doesn't want you there. you're not going to be there, right? I actually like Damon Kemp though, and I've been pretty open and honest about that. He was clearly very much better than his brother Gable Steveson. And so when I see Damon Kemp actually picking up on things, yeah, maybe he could get better with promos or like just being comfortable talking. I do look at him as a good wrestler with somebody that has potential. And I personally would like to see him being given an opportunity to go somewhere else and actually, show WWE why they should probably bring him back. But as far as WWE not re-signing talent, I don't blame them. They do have a loaded roster. If you look at NXT is completely shifting. NXT is becoming a completely different brand now. It's like a merge of black and gold and NXT 2.0 and like the original developmental NXT. There's just so many different eras of NXT that are all compiled into today's version. And some people just don't fit that vision. And I can understand why some talent might not be thrilled about this or why they might be nervous or whatever, but at the same time too, it is a business. You got to remember it's a business, and most importantly, you got to remember that just because you're there doesn't mean you're there for the long haul. And I think that's like a real good message to tell talent is like, hey, keep grinding, keep working, show them reasons why they should keep you, and don't let them regret that. And we'll see obviously how it plays out, but it's definitely something to pay attention to. And that brings us to CJ Perry, because it appears she is gone with the company. And this one actually floated under the radar for a really long time. And it's kind of shocking, really due to the fact that there was a big deal made out of her coming to AEW, obviously as a talent, being a valet. We saw her involved with Andrade, and then obviously Andrade's gone. Miro hasn't been on TV or anything like that. But she did say that she is finished with the company. She spoke with USA Today at the 2024 SP Awards, and she revealed that she's no longer with the company. She's available to sign anywhere. Supposedly she was part of the cuts that happened a couple months back when Anthony Henry and some other talent were released. The way I look at this is that she's a great talent and she's a phenomenal manager. I think it's inevitable that she finds her way back into WWE. I really do think that's the case. I think CJ Perry's also in a position where she can do a lot more than just wrestling stuff, right? There's the ability to do acting, and there's the ability to do podcasts. There's an ability to do fashion and products and services like that, But in my opinion, it's like the reason why this is so shocking to me is because of the fact that it just slipped under the radar. Nobody knew. And, with AEW and the way that they kind of flex out talent on TV and distribute TV time, it makes it really challenging because there are people who aren't on TV. And at this point, we don't even know if they're contracted or not. It's also important to remember that CJ Perry was just coming into the company for like per appearance. And then it eventually turned into an actual contract. And then eventually it just turned into, hey, she's been gone from the company. Sounds like she was released. No real clarification on it, but she's not with the company. She can go elsewhere. And obviously so far she hasn't. So why did the news slip under the radar? I don't know. There was also some stuff coming out about her and Miro getting a divorce. So maybe that's why they didn't put her with Miro and maybe just simply didn't have creative plans. And they're like, listen, this is not going to work out. I don't know, but it's something to definitely pay attention to. Very, very interesting stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Ango Show.